And welcome back. You find us over Gold Beach on D-Day, and we were just discussing the initial run-in for Gold Beach here. Let's talk about the way these things work. I don't think we've covered this much. So these landing craft are moving in. The first thing what we have is on each side of the run-in, on the edges, are these landing craft support. They're medium things. They're kind of designed to guide the people in, navigate in, give support. They've got they contain forward observation officers for artillery, and they are usually on the edges of the sector, moving in. And the idea was that these DD tanks would be pushed into the water quite a long way out, and then they would move in slowly in front of the landing craft, and so they would be getting to the beach just before the infantry arrive. Now, what happens here is that the sea's too rough, and the very wise decision is made to just run these LCTs, they're called, right into the beach, and almost either drop the tanks closer in where the waves weren't so choppy, or if it was still choppy, they were just going to push them all the way until they actually touched the sand. So there would be this line then of tanks that arrived. And if you remember when we talked about Omaha, 27 of the 29 tanks that was supposed to be going in ahead of the infantry didn't make it because they just went off the end of the ramp and sank. Whereas the British here said, maybe they just improvised better on the day, I think. Behind these tanks on the edges of the sector of the line would be these things called LCGIs. Sorry, LCGLs. And these are landing craft that are large, and they actually have guns on them. So these forward observation officers are then calling in targets to these guns on the side. And in the middle, then, in a big line coming in, you'd have these LCTs with concrete busters, all this sort of thing, all these Sherman, Churchill funnies coming in on these things. And they're always designation high explosive stuff, AVREs. There's concrete busters, whatever you want. And then behind then come the infantry, and these are in these LCAs. And the A stands for assault. These are the Higgins boats. And then behind the wave of assault boats then come these LCTRs, which stands for Landing Craft Tank Rocket, and they can then be firing these rockets over the heads of the troops as they're going in. And they would also include things like LCT Flak, which was basically to protect the assault craft from enemy aircraft. And then behind them, then you would get things like control motor vessels. These would be the guys who would be directing the troops in, the waves in, maybe changing the plan on the fly, getting feedback from the returning landing craft assault boats, and then being able to tell the next wave where to go and what to do. So that's the kind of the sequence of events that you get on this approach. So we're getting to around about 7 o'clock, 7:20. The naval bombardment has been going on, hitting these targets. They then stop at 7:20 to allow the LCAs to go in. This is then repeated with the rocket firing on the landing craft. And at 7:25 then we're talking the first wave of the 50th Infantry Division. They land at King Beach, which is below us here. And the first Arromanches and the Dorsets would land at the Jig Centre sector. So these casements, the one here, La Rivière, cause a lot of damage. They're hitting some of these landing craft as they come in. And at about 7:30, then this the La Rivière gun emplacement, which has an 88mm gun on it, is neutralized by a DD tank, British tank. But the Royal Marine Commandos also get struck at this time. Landing over on the eastern side of the cliff. Right, let's move on to the next section. So we're going to be talking from about 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock. So from around about 8 o'clock, the Royal Marine Centaur tanks arrive, and some delayed DDs, and the infantry begin pushing inland. Let's just lose some height here. And from about 8:15 to N25, then we get an infantry assault by a company of the 2nd Devons attacking the strong point at La Hamel. So they land, and I think, by the way, this is a great book. It's James Holland's Brothers in Arms, and he talks on this specifically about the Sherwood Rangers, but it's got some fantastic images, aerial photography of this section, so I definitely recommend that. The 2nd Devons, they basically land at this in this sort of section here, and then they push down this road into Asnel, and one company tries to attack La Hamel, which is this place here. This is the same time that the 7th, and then the rest of the Devons will push from, well, they get across this tank ditch now. The tank ditch. It's kind of this sort of, I think it might be where this road is here, this modern road here. But you see how at this section here it's all underwater. And what the Germans wanted to do is create an anti-tank ditch, and that forces or funnels any armour coming off the beach down towards the strong points in this area. I think actually this might be it here. This line that we see. It could be along here. Anyway, any elements of the 2nd Devons. A lot of this is once they're off the beach, is that idea is like, you just push on, and so the 2nd Devons will push on, and they head to the down this road here to Asnel, and then they move from this position this way, and their mission. There's a village up here called Rys, R-Y-E-S. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Which is this village up here. Just speed this up a bit. Yeah, it's just into this place here. And there are some fantastic aerial shots that James has got in his book, showing armoured vehicles moving along these roads off Gold Beach. So I highly recommend that book. 35, 36. So this is we're talking between this is 36 is this position down here, and 35 up at where we were talking about here. And the Germans are reporting that they're seeing 30 tanks coming ashore on this this sector here. And this is around about 9:30. This is at the same time that the 352nd German artillery, I've said that 6 amphibious tanks have been destroyed by mortars, but they're also talking about that this position here and the position down here is damaged, and that's the when we were talking about this place got taken out by a DD tank pretty early on. At this point as well, just to give you a little bit of a view, this is when one of the very few appearances of the Luftwaffe occurs, and this is when a dozen Focke-Wulf 190s come along and they strafe the beach. At 10 o'clock, between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock, most of the beach exits, and so we're looking at these, possibly these off ramps here. They've all been cleared by sappers by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and the subsequent waves are pouring ashore. But Le Hamel has still not been taken. And a lot of these units that are coming in, some of them are getting rerouted, so the 56th Infantry Brigade lands there, rerouted to avoid Le Hamel, so they're coming in further down. And they begin to do their move inland. So their job is to wasn't to do the first assault, is to do the push inland and continue the attack. And by 12 o'clock, the British have consolidated the beachhead. And the minefields get cleared, and the commandos have come in, and they've taken, come around the back, and areas of Arromanches become under their control, which is here below us. And so 3 o'clock we then get to where a AVRE fires into the Le Hamel Sanatorium, which I believe is around here. It's a strong point covering this route in. And this leads to the precipitation of the fall of the actual strong point. It's then, this position is then captured at around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At the same time, Arromanches is secured as well. So it's taken all day, and there's basically one massive resistance pocket here. Royal Marines have done their job and got off to to Arromanches. The long Sumer battery is eventually completely silenced at around sort of 6 o'clock in the evening. So this is his position here. It's taken. The final gun is taken out by the French cruiser, the Georges Legoux. And on the eastern flank, we'll talk about a few of these individual battles, maybe like we did with Omaha later. But they basically secure this, get this secured, and they join up with the Canadian forces down this road. Around about 6 o'clock in the evening. This is the sort of time as well where the this area is Lourdes-sur-Mer, so the elements of the 21st Panzer Division have pushed in to this area, and they realise that they are between two beaches, and they decide that their best bet is to pull back. So there were this is the only occasion where actual tanks have eyes on the beach. German tanks have eyes on the beach. And eventually, just to finish off this east-west axis, the 47 Commando Royal Marines have pushed from Arromanches along the coast, and they get to the port en passant, or the skirts of it, by the evening. All right. So what I do now, I just do a general overview flight. I'm gonna just do a quick flight now from here, this point here, which is La Hamel, and we're flying the route that they took. They basically did a fork from here, moving left and right, and we'll follow the route that they took on the day, pushing into Bayeux and Cruelly, and we'll finish this this episode here. I think my computer is getting a little bit laggy here. So they basically break the crust. Oh, come on, computer, just get there. They break the crust, and they push on into Bayeux, and they don't actually take Bayeux on the day, but they're effectively on the outskirts of it, and they're trying to cut this road, and we're just going to have a look at that. In terms of objectives, this is one of the most successful beaches. You could argue Utah was as well. In terms of their actual objectives set. This is Bayeux here. And I don't know what's going on with these. I think I'll have to leave this here because my computer looks like it's about to give up the ghost. But just to say that this is the beachhead that they secure is about 6 miles in and 6 miles across, and they're just trying to get control of the road between Bayeux and Caen, and Caen is basically along this road here, as you can see over there towards the distance. So I will have to leave that there. I think my computer has just decided to potato, and I will see you in the next episode. I might push on to Juno and do Sword as well, but we could go back and have a look at a few of the individual elements of this sector of gold itself. And as I say, we'll probably follow James Holland's brothers in arms. We'll look at the Sherwood Rangers. We'll look at their progress in. I'd like to actually use James's book and actually try and follow them through. It's basically the British version of Band of Brothers, where James follows one regiment, but I would like to get. I think if we get the context of Juno and Sword with this, we'll have a better understanding of what's going on, and then we can follow these individual paths of units later when we want to really pick up on what's going on. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you appreciate the live nature of these episodes. Please do like and subscribe. I see that we're on about 12 subscribers now. So if you do like it, or just want to support a small channel and see see some improvements to it, or maybe you've got some tips that you want to give, then just put in the comments below, and I will read them all, and I will use them. On that note, though, I will say goodbye, and I'll probably see you next week.